am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a podcast akin to the great salons of times past. Pour yourself a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and listen to the great artists, writers, politicians, and celebrities of our day discuss and debate the current political and economic scene, art and music, film, literature, or maybe talk about the newest trends in fashion, design, and haute cuisine. Whether it's the current political cocktail or the latest must-read award-winning book, we tackle all topics and like to stir. And yes, sometimes shake things up. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, as we do every week, veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper and I slice and dice the current political landscape as we engage in our weekly snap, crackle, and pop political conversation. And what a week it has been. Robert Mueller filed the Michael Flynn sentencing memo, and although a lot was redacted, there was much to read between the lines, and Matt and I will. We lost our 41st President of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush, and the nation mourns. CIA Director Gina Haspel finally briefed key lawmakers on the murder of journalist James Khashoggi that led Senator Lindsey Graham to say, "There's not a smoking gun, there's a smoking saw." Republicans across the country are playing fast and loose with the rules. Roger Stone has pled the fifth and won't be talking to Congress anytime soon. And George Conway, lawyer husband of Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway, is definitely not happy with his wife's boss, Donald Trump, and is all but shouting it from the rooftops. Welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, and we are just beginning. Here we go. Matt, good morning. It's morning. We the two of us stayed up all night because we wanted to wait to hear what the Mueller report said, and then we were all excited about it, so we decided to record in the morning, which we don't normally do, and neither of us are really morning people. So good morning, everybody. Right?
Hey, good morning.
Okay. But that report, let's begin there. It basically said former head of the NSA, Mike Flynn, shouldn't go to prison. Bada bada bing, because he helped with the investigation substantially, early and often, the Russia-Trump investigation, and on two other unnamed investigations, which are still ongoing. And my keyword, substantially cooperated a lot more, learned from redactions, and than there was anything else. And another phrase that caught my eye was senior government officials. Your take, Matthew.
Well, kind of similar. And first, let me apologize if you hear some sounds that are other than me. I live pretty close to the National Cathedral here in Washington, where the funeral for George H.W. Bush is going to take place in a couple of hours, but there are police setting up and there are barricades, and there's a lot of noise going on out there. So
well recorded.
Don't want you to think they're coming for me to arrest me or something.
Never you.
That'll be another time. But today it's all about this occasion. Yeah. Well, look, I have a similar take. I mean, gosh, this was the sentencing memo where Mueller explains, to the judge what he wants to do and what the kind of sentence he'd like Michael Flynn to get. Flynn, of course, is the shortest-serving national security advisor in history, just 28 days before he had to resign, and not too much longer before he had to plead guilty to lying to the FBI and begin his process. So the highlights of this note that Mueller sent to the judge, well, I mean, one is that he had done 19 interviews with the Office of Special Counsel. That's a lot of talking.
You think?
That's not just a quick tell us about why you lied to the FBI. That's like a whole lot of stuff. And I had a little bit part in the CIA leak investigation of about 13 years ago. And a little walk-on part. And, but, I did a couple interviews, at first with the investigators after I agreed to talk. It wasn't, Nothing like that. And so that 19 is a lot. I think that's more than them being repetitious. That means they were looking at something. So that's that. If I was in the White House, I'd be concerned about that,
to say the least. Concerned.
And then he did have this line in there about like saying, well, Flynn should get some. They were arguing that Flynn shouldn't do any jail time, which requires the judge to really, make an exception here. And in the course of that, Mueller's people argue, hey, he should get some dispensation because he had all these years in the military. But it's important for every senior official in the White House to know that, hey, we take the law seriously. And that's what I assume you meant. That's it was kind of shot across the bow.
Yeah, for sure.
Senior officials be on notice. And, of course, the whole thing was basically kind of a plea. It said, like, look, cooperate with us. You might not get any jail time. We're going to work to help you. If you don't cooperate with us, like Manafort,
you're going to jail for a long
that we don't
time.
even know about. Like, we're going to come after you, and we're not going to care that you're, 65 years old and, had a middle class or a wealthy life. We're not going to, cut you some slack. You're going to do the rest of your life in jail. And I think it was a pretty revealing document.
Revealing too, also for this. I mean, first of all, there are two investigations mentioned that none of us know about.
Yes,
and I think, you got to think that somebody in the White House is going, oh my gosh, maybe there's more, or they know. That's the thing that's so funny about it. Really and truly, don't they know? They know what they did. They know who was involved. They know the story. They know. They just don't know what Mueller knows. And I guess, in a way, that's what we're all just players in their scene because the White House knows and Mueller knows. Just we don't know. It's fascinating.
Right. I mean, it's a little bit of some Edwardian costume drama because you don't really know, like, they're all speaking to each other in sort of politeness, but there's also a sort of threats and other things being darkly hinted at the same time. So it's intense, and of course you got two more of these things coming this week.
Right.
One about Michael Cohen, kind of a sentencing memo on that, and then another one on Manafort. So we'll get another couple of glimpses behind the curtain.
I also
didn't get the sense this is all over.
No. I know
I think the words "ongoing" appear a couple of times.
Yes.
I think he's, I think he's still out there, and he's trying to shake the tree more to get more people to cooperate.
And I think there's another aspect to it, which is, it seems to me, that he has protected himself, and he has sent some of this investigation to outside his purview.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's fascinating that he made that clear.
I think it's clear that if for some reason Mueller got fired, you've got other parts of the DOJ have it. So that sort of, spreads the chance that the investigation would continue. And then, of course, you got the state AGs, attorneys general, who are, not at all subject to Trump's whim, who can continue the investigation. So I think this will be with us for a while.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also think this. I know this is hard to believe. It might be worse than we even thought it was.
Well, then you thought it was because you think it's pretty. You're into everything. The PP tape.
You better believe it, baby.
Candidate.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm telling you that I think this might be a bigger treason event than we might have thought. I want to talk to you about Mike Flynn just for a second, because the other thing is it possible he was a mole?
He was a mole for the Russians?
No,
he was a mole for the
FBI, CIA, Mueller.
Well, it's a bit of a bank shot, right? I mean, he got charged with the crime he admitted to was lying to the FBI.
But they caught him early. And he stayed. Here's what I'm thinking: that they caught him earlier.
Give me your theory.
My theory is that they caught him earlier than we thought they caught him, and he switched quicker. And he stayed. He was in there while some of the stuff was going on more than during the campaign, more than during the period between inauguration and maybe stayed whatever. Look, this.
So they catch him in December in a lie.
Exactly, and then they get him to switch.
Or very early January.
Right.
Well, that's interesting because, of course, the other thing is how could he not have known that the original sin for him, right, is that he has these phone calls with the Russian ambassador, and the calls are overheard. By our intelligence officials,
like he wouldn't
lies,
know. Right?
And then he lies. And how would he, Mike Flynn, who had formerly been the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, not have been aware that the Russian ambassador is regularly?
That's my point.
Recorded. I mean, the Russian ambassador knows he's regularly recorded. So.
Right. That's my point. So that's why I'm saying I wonder.
So they, in other words, you're saying they didn't put the bracelets on right away.
Exactly. And that's why they're so good to him.
Well, it's true. It only gets out because the Washington Post reports that he had these conversations.
Right.
And then Trump and Pence and everybody's like, oh, he lied to us.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're going to kick him out.
Mm-hmm.
Because they blow off Sally Yates, the Obama holdover as head of the Justice Department, pending Sessions' confirmation, when she raises the alarm and says, oh, we've got this intel, and your national security advisor is talking to the Russians, and Need
I say more? I think.
Well, no, that's not crazy,
right?
I mean,
well, I'm never crazy.
So you're saying, but for the Washington Post leak,
right?
Figuring it out,
right.
They would have let him just kind of hang there,
exactly, and see what he was going to come up with. That's what I'm thinking. Well, it's out there. Let's put it out there. I haven't read it, so let us, you and I, be the first.
I will say it's incredibly unusual to argue for no jail time because.
Well, that's why I'm
even
thinking.
When people cooperate, it's just the prosecutor always wants to put somebody in jail, even if it's the other guy, the fellow with the Greek name, whose name is escaping
Papadopoulos.
Papadopoulos, right?
His 2 weeks.
2 weeks at
Club
Fed. They want to give you something. It's just in their DNA, so it's pretty unusual to argue that.
That's why I'm saying,
Halli.
Yeah, he's on their team.
You're the novel writing side of you, the sleuthy foreign reporter side of you. I'm liking it.
Well, let's put that out there. Let's see how this finally shakes down. But like you said, it's unusual for them not to put somebody, to ask for jail time. And there's mandatory sentencing, and there's
not even a day.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
Pretty unusual.
So that's pretty unusual. We're going to talk about Mr. Pence because he plays a part in this. But because this show is today, and this is the day that we're burying, or at least having the big.
It's the national service.
It's the national service for the former President George H.W. Bush, who passed away last week. This is this is really this is on two fronts. There's he's lying in state. They're canonizing him. Oh, my God. Right?
Yeah.
The greatest one-term president who lost to Bill Clinton, for those who weren't around in the old days, who ultimately became his close friend, and almost another son to him. The last of the greatest generation World War II hero, a hell of a career in government. Well, he was at the head of the CIA. He was the 43rd vice president with Reagan. He becomes president. Ambassador, U.S. representative. Was there nothing this guy didn't do?
Right.
And he's the father of 43, and the governor of Florida, and a decent man. That is the point that seems to be going. Thrown out of office because he said no new taxes. Then there's 1,000 points of light. I just want to put all this out there, and then I'm going to ask you to talk about it. But here's the point that I want to get to. He is being canonized, and he's clearly they're using it to put him up against the reprobate Trump. That's obvious to me. I don't like rewriting history. Oh, and I should say the Gulf War. That's the other thing that was in my head. He was the first Gulf War. But here's what I'm reading online, which I find very interesting, which the newspapers and talking heads aren't picking up, and that is there is a whole sub thing going on with gay people just going, why are you doing this? He stopped AIDS research. He didn't want to put money into AIDS. He was against LBGT. And there were a lot of, by the way, legislation that wasn't so great. So canonized, you talk to me. I put it all out there.
Yeah, well, I think you're on something. Look, I think I think it's become kind of a tradition to give, ex-presidents kind of a send-off that's kind of warm and more generous to them than they received in their lifetime. So, with the last few we've had, starting with Nixon, in I think 93, 94, I forget exactly when, everyone kind of, emphasized the better parts of his career, the outreach to China, and the sort of the Disraeli conservatism, like, starting the EPA and OSHA and other progressive things that happened under him. And, with Ford, there was there's been a lot of rethinking that the pardon was a good idea, not a bad idea. And so he got a glorious send-off, and Reagan did too. And so that's kind of become the tradition anyway,
Right.
But this time it's really gotten hyper-elevated, I think, for exactly the reason you said, that, the guy stands in contrast to Trump, right? I mean, Bush wrote all these thousands of sort of charming personal handwritten letters to people. Trump, writes, clips a newspaper article and writes, loser. Yeah, you're wrong. You never can have any money.
Oh, my gosh.
That's his handwritten notes, right? It's a little bit of a contrast. And that, I guess, was inevitable. It did seem to me this week that, especially on cable TV, a little less so on the newspaper news pages, but on cable, especially in the editorial columns, there was a little, it was even in excess of what Reagan and Ford and, of course, Nixon got. There was just so overly over the top. Not that he shouldn't get, credit for the things he did that have been of enduring value, like, helping steer the country through the end of the Cold War. But there was missing a lot of things, like you said, the controversies over, AIDS research and other things. Very little mention of the choice of quail.
Right.
Which was, if you lived through that period, was, was somewhat controversial among Republicans and Democrats. And, it was really the most important decision he ever made, with the exception of going to war. So there was not the most balanced approach, I think. And, I think certainly as journalists we try to,
Yeah, no, I think that's true. By the way, when I think quail, I think Sarah Palin too. I mean,
and I don't think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in some ways the Democrats always kind of, parodied quail. They lampooned him somewhat unfairly. He was not a total, idiot, although he had moments of true. He was callow. I mean, I don't think he was not very self-aware. He was callow, but, he'd been in the Senate 8 years. He'd been in the House longer. He'd done some interesting things. I mean, he wasn't, I think, compared to Palin or Agnew.
Let's Republicans pick him,
Andrew
don't they?
Johnson. We've had some real winners.
Yeah, no, I mean, but Murphy Brown and Quayle and well, that's another conversation. I want to move on.
I think we should remember. I think one way to think about Bush, if I can sort of
sure.
And it's kind of in the air because I live very close to the National Cathedral, as I said, and it's an appropriately gray day. I think he had many decent qualities and many, strong qualities of governance. I think he saw campaigning and governing as very different, and campaigning led him to do things that were a more ruthless side of him, like, kind of slandering Michael Dukakis or picking Quayle or other. His worst moments kind of came when he was campaigning, I think, which he saw as just, the price of power. And I think he tended to be better in office. And so there's very sort of, kind of touching chat that former Iowa Democratic Senator Tom Harkin had on TV last night, talking about all the work Bush had done on behalf of his major cause, the Americans for Disability Act. And
Bob Dole. Did you see that?
Yeah, and that was quite moving. Bob Dole, of course, had been his serious rival for the 1988 nomination, and Bush had just run over the guy. And but there was Bob Dole, 95 years old, being helped out of his wheelchair.
It was a moment. It made me cry.
It was a moment, and I think people are so hungry for any segment of normality and decency at this point.
I so agree. And it was funny. I was looking this morning at the lines waiting to get into to view the casket, and I thought, what is this? And this is just beautiful to see. This is people praying in a way that decency returns. Last gasp of decency. I think the need to canonize Bush is, decency. Please, can we get a little of it back? We need to move on, and I want to move on to this though, and this stays in the Bush thing. But Trump, we always got to bring it back to Trump, right? Trump is invited to the service. Yesterday, by the way, I want to just say that one thing that I saw that cracked me up, and that is that they had the caravan to go across the street to Blair House, which is 300 yards from the... Yeah,
it's bizarre. I mean, a couple of White Houses, and the president
it was either her high heels, darling, couldn't make it across the street, or his fat white body, forgive me, he's not in shape to walk that far. I don't know. It seemed absolutely bizarre and stupid and whatever. So I just wanted to mention that. But I want to talk about the fact that this is quite a setup for this afternoon, because I don't believe that Obama or Clinton have been in the same room with Trump since the election. And so that's quite a scene. And nobody really talks to Trump. So where are they going to? And Trump is not allowed to speak. He's been put on silence in order to have the right to attend. I'm wondering what happens with all of that. And oh my God, I would like to be a fly on the wall today.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Well, I think everyone will be. I mean, I don't think no one's going to make a scene, right? I mean,
it's a scene just having a camera on them.
Yeah. I mean, I think, they will, Trump will scowl probably a bit, but, they'll all we'll have some shaking hands, but there definitely won't be a kumbaya moment W giving Michelle Obama a cough drop or whatever happened at the...
Right. There's no love lost.
I can't remember if it was
obviously.
Barbara Bush or the McCain service.
There's a wonderful photograph out in the ozone of all of the living presidents.
Yeah.
Do you know that photo? And Jimmy Carter, who nobody liked, is off on
right.
It's huge, impactful photograph. I'm hoping they come up with one like that, because I think that'll put it all in perspective.
It would be nice. It's unusual to have so many alive, and
not many left.
Not many left.
No.
And there are times when I remember I was a kid at the time, but when LBJ and Truman died within a few weeks of each other.
Right.
70,
I don't remember that.
Beginning of 73, there were no living ex-presidents.
I don't think I remember that.
For a while.
Yeah, right. Let's go on.
Always the historian me.
So let's go to this. Let's go to what the hell is happening. Ballot harvesting in California, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin this morning.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Holy crap. I mean, and North Carolina officials are...
This North Carolina story is crazy.
What? Talk to me about that. How could that even... that it's uncovered is amazing.
That much, and that, because I only have so many brain cells, and it's just, it's like... Only so much time for some crazy... Well, in the 9th Congressional District, in which the Republican seems to have been reelected by a very narrow margin of less than 1,000 votes. What seems to have emerged is that there were an extremely large number of absentee ballots ordered in one Democratic county. They seem to have been ordered on behalf of minorities by a firm that was hired by the Republican candidate. In other words, they had voter lists. They asked for the ballots from the minorities, and then came and sort of steered them towards voting for the Republican or leaving that section blank, and then collected the ballots, which would be a massive set of felonies and state laws, because you're not allowed to, only a close relative can help someone with a absentee ballot, and there's supposed to be 2 witnesses, and it looks like a case of potentially massive ballot tampering. Now, we don't know yet, but it's being seriously investigated by the State Board of Elections out there and the Secretary of State, and it's possible it's going to call into question this whole congressional election in that seat. But, the idea that you've got a firm that's run by a guy who'd been convicted of different things back in the 90s.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Right. There
were
there's nothing,
allegations of, paying people on opioids. It's Baroque. It's
it is Baroque, but it's the South, and I'm not surprised. I'm really, really not. I wanted to bring it up, and I think it's important. We got to keep it in its space, because we got a lot to get to still. But I want to also bring up Wisconsin, and the crazy that is going on there, where they're what's his face, Governor Walker.
Walker's leaving.
Oh my God! And he's leaving. Right. He's not leaving kindly. He's leaving with, we are going to do scorched earth, and we're going to take
So they're
away.
trying to change a bunch of laws before the Democrats.
I think they did it this morning. What this Republican Party has really got deep problems, and it's not just in Washington. Wherever you go, they are messing with things, and it is really, really, really frightening, because this is changing things. I don't know what happens with that kind of a legislation, by the way, if it's taken to the court and it keeps going up the circuit.
I don't know what kind of legal challenges can be posed. It's still an intact legislature.
Yeah, it's very scary.
They're allowed to change
stuff.
laws. So, but I do think, Democrats are not saintly. They play hardball. They do lots of things. But I got to say, the terrible imagination it takes to sort of come up with something like, oh, let's just sit on a Supreme Court nominee for a year. Or let's just change the laws before the Democrat governor comes in to, render him more powerless. Those require kind of a collective imagination that's...
Well, you call it a collective imagination, but I just call it evil. I think it's evil. Absolutely.
Well, let's say evil imagination.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's compromise. It is over the top, and it is bizarre. And I think that, Steny Hoyer, going back to the North Carolina thing, it says we're not going to resolve this election. Nobody's coming to to town until this is resolved.
Yeah, we're not right. They can not seat the guy.
So what I'm saying, it's that maybe there is an avenue if we can get Democrats to be as wily as these wackadoodle Republicans are. You're listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern at HalliCasser-Jayne.com, and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. Moving on, I have to do it again. Khashoggi. Gina Haspel finally speaks to key lawmakers, not everybody.
Yeah, and boy, they came out of that meeting.
Woohoo, baby!
More determined.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham.
That, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia.
Let me quote Lindsey. There's not a smoking gun. There's a smoking saw, and this is the killer one. If they were in a Democratic administration, I would be all over them for being in the pocket of Saudi Arabia. Do you think he got a call from Trump last night, or was Trump too busy waiting to get the note from Mueller looking? Well, baby.
Yeah, I don't know if he got the call, but It was, boy, normally the thing about intelligence is that when they present it, usually they're, if they're being honest brokers, which a lot of people say Haspel is, they're like, well, on one hand, on the other, here's what we know, here's what we're guessing, we're not sure, it could mean this, it could mean that. For them to come out of a briefing that positive, I mean,
I think they had this. They saw the bone saw. Is what they did. They saw the bone saw. I think it's extraordinary, and this is so blatant, Matt. I don't know how they handle this because, yeah, there have been crazy stuff, but it was never front and center. This is so front and center. I'm going to be curious to see how they resolve this so that MBS is not.
Yeah, because normally I don't know how foreign leaders, they take some pains to distance themselves from heinous acts. Yeah, it's just been ringing.
This is a strange situation and in a strange time. The price of gas has gone down. Oh my God! Since this all happened.
Yeah.
That seems to be the quid pro quo between Trump and
that's a quid and that's a pro.
There you go. So that's interesting. The other thing I want to bring up is something that Chris Stewart, a GOP rep, said on Khashoggi. Journalists disappear all the time. To me, that's the Republican Party. That is the Republican Party.
Well, hopefully the Lindsey Graham, this is an outrage. Part of it will prove more enduring. But I agree. He probably speaks for some people who are like, well, what's the big deal?
Okay. I'm circling around now. Let me go back to something that I want to talk to you about. Mike Pence. I personally am going to put it out there. I think he is the most dangerous man around. And I think that, in a sense, Trump...
Okay, I got a little love for the Pence.
Oh, no, I didn't. Why do you have a little love for the Pence?
I got a little love. Well, a little personal.
Okay, talk to me.
All politics is local.
All right, talk to me.
But he was the advocate, the author, the champion in Congress for a shield law for journalists to help protect them from having to give up confidential sources.
Okay.
So I testified for his law. There are photos of me on the interweb shaking hands with Mike Pence. So I always have a little soft spot for the Pensy.
The interweb that you can watch on your computer machine.
Me on the interweb shaking hands with Mike Pence. I have a little soft spot for the Pensy.
Okay. Well, I don't.
Let it rip.
I think he's a very dangerous man, and I want to make clear.
But seriously, why?
First, let me say a couple of things about him. First of all, he got the vice presidency because it was Manafort's choice. He was Manafort's choice, and I was always suspicious of that. Always.
It was also the kids. Remember, the kids didn't want Christie.
Well, whatever.
Okay, but go ahead.
But there you go. I don't like this guy's politics at all. Could you be any more right? I never trust religious people who take it to politics. I don't like religion and politics, and when I see it intermingled, I start to get very antsy and say to myself, how to play people. So I think there's that. But he doesn't have clean hands in all of this. How could he possibly, And Robert Mike Reich, former, Secretary of Labor under Clinton.
Yeah.
And I think he's a professor now at UCLA or something like that.
Yeah.
Very bright guy. Comes out with a piece, and he says, if he is indeed compromised, and there is proven Russian interference, collusion, obstruction, we can't just impeach. We have to annul Trump's presidency, and Pence is part of that. I've always felt that way, by the way. I've always felt that the worst thing could happen in all of this is if we find out just how deep this went into the election, and that, Wisconsin and all those states that may have been tampered with, that we can't just go, oh, okay, it's all right. Because that's not a solution, and that means, and it's we need to fix it. I agree with him. It should be annulled. It would be civil war, maybe, but that's how I feel about Pence. Pence could not be sitting in there with all of these characters and not know what the hell was going on. and not be a part of it and not be manipulating it. And he's a far smarter politician than Trump, who is not a politician. And I think a lot of the manipulation that you've seen go on was Pence and not Trump. And that's my point. Now, I understand you have a soft heart for the guy, and he may even the devil probably has something good in him. He's a father, maybe, or she. But this guy, he's getting a free pass, and I'm starting to think we got to stop giving him a free pass. And if you're going to take Trump out, you got to take Pence out too. Okay.
Well, I mean, we got a legal. Let me unpack all that. You went deep. I don't know. I'll see what Rubber said about annulment, and what you're saying. But I mean, we have an avenue. I mean, you can impeach the vice president. You can impeach him when he's president. I don't know if there's actually a legal thing called annulling the election. I think all you can do is just, follow impeachment to its next step.
Well, let me just throw in real quickly. If annulment, wouldn't that be that would be a legal process where impeachment is a political process? I think that's why he was using those.
I just don't even know I guess you could pass a law that says the last election was null and void and then try to get the courts to sign it. But a law requires a presidential signature. So there's not an easy, I'll see what he said, but I don't know if there's actually a road there. You'd have to build a road that doesn't exist. But leaving that aside, what do you think he was in on? Because, he's not in the Trump Tower meeting with the Russian lady back in the summer of 2016.
You do know that there are telephones and cell phones.
No way. No,
and emails.
He's not in the Comey. He's not in the Comey, squeeze meeting. I mean, what is he in on that you think he's in on?
Well, I'm wondering what first. All right, go back to he and.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I know what you're saying. You're saying, you're going. Oh, there goes Halli again off on one of her things. But that's really okay. No, but even if you're not, and even if you are, it doesn't matter. I do. There's what is that relationship between Manafort and Pence? He's like. He's always in the background. He's always standing in the background. I mean, there was even a great shot of Pence the other day. Trump was going in the wrong direction, as he's been doing a lot lately. He just walks off stages. He goes off into, he's lost in his own brain somehow, and people have to redirect him. And then you see Pence redirecting him. You're not going to tell me physically he may not have been in all of that, but he knows. He's a politician. He would insist on knowing and that's just if he wasn't involved. But, he went from a Christian, right-wing, yada, yada, yada kind of guy to being hooked into probably the worst human being ever to serve in government, as far as I'm concerned. Trump, no. There's that quid pro quo again. There's an attachment. Personally, if he was the man that we thought that he was, why didn't he just say, I'm going to either step down or turn Trump in?
Well,
come on.
I know what you're saying. I'm not saying it's impossible he committed any crimes or anything, but I mean...
complicit, if nothing else.
So, I mean, look, he's definitely Trump's poodle.
Well, hello. Well, that's it. Yeah.
But that's not... and he's been embarrassing in his kind of sucking up to Trump. But that's just kind of comical at times. But that's not a crime. I just don't know. Look, if there's something out there, presumably Mueller will be onto it.
The criminal aspects of what they're looking into, as we learned last night, that. There were 3. That's one of them, and that's been turned over, and we have to assume that's got to do with either Kushner, I'm thinking, right? Or one of the Trump boys. I mean, it seems that would be the criminal aspect, and that's in the New York court probably thing. But this is not a moron, Mr. Pence. This is a very bright man. It had been me, and I was the great Christian leader, yada, 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 that Trump puts himself, that Pence puts himself out to be. I think that I would have kind of not done what Pence did, which tells me I think that Pence is somehow deeply, just because he didn't get himself out, he's in it somehow. That's my point.
Well,
and he's gotten a free ride.
I know what you're saying. I mean, we've never had a vice president resign on principle, right?
Well, but you did have a Secretary of State who I have a great interview with and a great photo, and one of my great heroes resign on principle. So I mean, it's
Yeah. Well, it's a little different when you're elected by the country, but well, look, presumably we're going to find out. I'm a little wary of it, if only because his whole body language towards the Russians has been much different than Trump's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think his speeches have been tougher, and his just general posture has been tougher than Trump's. And well, look,
let's wait to see. But I'm putting it out there, baby. That was my point. I wanted to put it out there.
Okay, you got it. We got it out there.
We got it out there. Let's see what happens next. Okay, a little trivia. Meghan McCain, The View, Joy Behar, 2 cats. I mean, those 2 girls went at it like nobody's business. I wanted to bring it up only because I like all this crap. I think it's wonderful. We need to put that into the mix of all this very serious stuff. But, they call McCain the Ice Princess and Elsa from the film Frozen on The View. Their latest dust-up was on Trump undoing all the good George H.W. Bush and Obama did over global warming, and McCain said, "Stop talking about Trump. Do we always have to put Trump into it?" Yada yada yada. And of course, Behar, who is a huge global warming and
right.
protect the environment freak, went and called her the bitch bird and said she was going to quit if this continued.
And McCain's tough on Trump, so she just doesn't want to talk about him.
It's like when I'm going to see what happens with a lot of these people who are Republican, not Trump fans, who even on MSNBC, Nicole, all of them, Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt and a few of the others never vary. That's where they are. But I've watched other Republicans who are anti-Trump, their Republicanism, surface, and they get they can't help themselves. That's who they are, whatever. And so they go to whatever. And I think that may have been what was happening there, but the producers on the show are calling her Ice Princess and Elsa from the film Frozen, and she's apparently some spoiled kind of brat, and I think that's interesting, and it's just, political trivia, but hey, you got to put it in there because it's part of the mix. Moving on to Manafort, Assange, Ecuador, WikiLeaks. Yikes. Is there a story there?
Well, I mean, it's hard to believe. Assange has been living at the embassy so long now, and the Ecuadorians want to get rid of him. They're getting tired of him. And,
he even banished his cat because he thought it was so unfair that the cat didn't get to see daylight, by the way. Did you know that about Assange? Yeah. I mean,
What do you think, though? What was it? Manafort flies down there and, tries to get him to come back.
That's very weird. Anything that has Manafort and Assange in it is going to be very suspect.
It's very odd. They really need to clean that Assange situation up. It's not a pretty thing to have out there.
Yeah, I got to believe every intelligence service has a wire in there.
Right. Roger Stone pleading the fifth, according to Senator Dianne Feinstein. Senate Judiciary Committee refuses to share documents and testimonies with the Senate Judiciary Committee. He and Jerry Corsi say, we're going to prison, baby.
You give them immunity and then they can't,
right?
plead the fifth. So, it's it's not an answer for a defendant or a witness before Congress.
What happens if you do plead the Fifth in front of Congress?
You can plead the Fifth and not say anything, but then if they give you immunity, then you have to.
And is the immunity only for Congress? It doesn't apply to whatever Mueller? How does that work?
They can apply, yeah, but that means then Mueller can't use what they
That's what I wanted to know.
For. Right.
Yeah. This is kind of iffy stuff. I think Nixon is finally going to wind up in jail on Roger Stone's back.
Yes. Roger Stone will be the proxy, right?
If nobody knows, Roger Stone has a big tattoo of Nixon on
I just want to picture Roger Stone in jail. It's just
I want, without the hair dye, without the makeup.
Without the,
right?
the $6,000 suits, it's just... it's crazy.
I mean, really, really, really. Okay, a little trivia here. Michael Avenatti says he's not going to run for president because his...
I know how upset you are about that.
Well, I'm not an Avenatti fan. I think he was an interesting character for a brief moment, but, hello. We all have to be careful about who we hook our selves to in a hurry because they do something that's so interesting in the beginning. The other one is Clinton's embarked on a speaking tour, and guess what? Nobody showed up.
Yeah.
That was sad.
Well, a little sad. Well, they don't have a book to sell. That's one, right? They don't really have a vehicle. And then, they're all news. They're old news and they're getting old because no way would Bill have allowed this kind of stuff to go on back in the day. They need to get their dignity back. So maybe they need to exit the stage for a while and come back with something very different. But they're just they're tools now. They're tools of the right. And they just keep playing in the hands of the right. Your thoughts? Well, I think, I think she's probably going to have to. She's not going to be the nominee in 2020. It's not going to happen. So why she isn't sort of shutting it down more emphatically?
She could turn herself into the great stateswoman. They knew how to do that, and got her
when she's not running for something, she's very popular.
Right.
As she was as Secretary of State. So, I think they probably should just get back to more of the work of the Clinton Foundation.
Well, that lost so much money. Nobody's giving any money to the Clinton Foundation. It's it's hurting. Quickly, I want to go change subject again. George Conway was at it again. Oh, my God. Eric Trump weighed in.
It'd be such a good sitcom.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What the hell? This is really getting to be interesting. Kellyanne, I was trying to put myself in her shoes. I probably would have cut off his you-know-what when he came home.
Yeah. Yeah. On the other hand, it's Carville and Matlin. It's a...
Yeah, they didn't play it like that, though. They appeared together and showed the love.
Milked it.
They played it, and these two are. I think it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But
he's clearly deeply offended by what's happening, and
his wife is a part of what's happening. How do you live with that?
And his wife's a part of what's happening, but it must be some very interesting pillow talk.
I don't think they do pillow talk. That's my idea. My thing is that they're living very separate lives and for their kids. And
you never know what's going on in a marriage.
You never, ever, ever, ever know. Okay. Now, let me bring this up. Trump and his Twitter feed, and I'm going to combine two stories in that. One is, is he obstructing justice in plain sight or witness tampering? He put out this tweet like he was talking to all those people who Stone and et cetera as to whatever. And let me also add to that the Dow plummeted almost 800 points yesterday and something after Trump tweeted. Now, a friend of mine said, I'm so happy he did that. It's going to go down. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. I'll sell when it's low. I just got to listen, watch what he's telling me on Twitter. And then I'm going to make lots of bucks. He's talking to me. I got some money. Talk to me about that, about Twitter and Trump and the manipulation he uses it for. I'm not okay about this. What are you thinking?
No, I mean, it's not just a megaphone. I mean, for stating his views, it's a tool with, I guess, potentially criminal import if you're seen as using it to witness tamper. I mean, is he, when he condemns Michael Cohen, who's cooperating with authorities, and praises Stone, who isn't, is he engaged in witness tampering? I leave that to the lawyers, but it's kind of a fascinating question that adds a new twist to his hyper tweeting. As for the stock market, he definitely didn't help matters.
The first thing he tweeted about today was China, so he's trying to clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem to be singling out companies anymore. Remember when he knocked a few,
right?
Many billions off Boeing's valuations when he tweeted about them during the transition, I think. So, it's a powerful tool he has, and of course he's using it in a pretty reckless way. So, it's an extension of him.
On my list,
but don't try to play the market. Don't try to play it.
No, not me. Right.
Don't know. You can never be. Just buy an index fund.
Oh my God, what a mess! It brings to mind, Matt. I think he understands his powers and uses them kind of in a negative way on the one hand, and the true power that he has, he doesn't understand. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, and nobody's helping him get to where he needs to go. He has no he has no compass to lead him down a moral path. That's what's so sad about it.
But he's got survival skills, and that
we'll
that's
see.
worth something.
We'll see how far that takes him.
I don't think he has a death wish. I think he wants to get through this.
He wants to get through it.
Yeah.
Do you think he wants to go for the second term, or you think he wants to bow out?
I think he wants to have the option at the least, right? I mean, he's declared earlier than anyone. I don't, we'll find out.
So what did I miss?
In this crazy week, with the nutty, Paris
is burning.
With the riots. I mean, first of all, what about the president's friend, what was his friend?
Epstein.
Dave?
Who? What? Which friend? What are we talking about?
He kept named in speeches. He would name this mythical friend.
Oh, wasn't that funny? Yeah.
The one who said, we don't go to Paris anymore. We used to always love Paris. We don't go anymore because it's not Paris anymore. A reference to immigration. But now I wonder what's happened to that, probably apocryphal friend of his. But what a mess over there, right? I mean, Macron's, proposed this tax increase on fuel, which is already very, very, very expensive over there, and he faces all these riots.
And he cratered on that after the riots. He said, "No more. We're going to table that for a while and see what happens."
It was probably a good call.
But I had such hopes for him, and he's not controlling the masses. It is Paris. There are the masses.
Go when something like this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's very odd. I guess the other story we should bring up is Jeffrey Epstein, because that's really very ugly too. The story of a guy who likes young girls, surrounded by other politicians who apparently like young girls, who got off because of the judge who is now what's his position now? He's the secretary of whatever. Is this?
Yeah, labor.
Yeah, this is bad. And this,
or HHS. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this may blow up into something. And names like Clinton and Alan Dershowitz are in there, and I'm sure many others.
Yeah.
I
mean, you never know if they liked him for his money.
Oh, God.
I mean, this is the problem with it's another case for campaign finance reform, right? I mean, did they like him for this money, or did they like him because he was, had all this pervy stuff going on.
Oh God, what a story, though, right? What a story! Yeah, everybody keep your ears on that. I think this gets bigger. That's all I got. Anything you got before we say adios?
No, I think it's a big moment when a president passes, and I hope the other ones have some good years ahead.
Nice way to end it. I'll say no more. Talk to you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is a production of Resec, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show at hallicasserjayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.